Welcome everyone to the Moisky News for February 26th, 2020. Today, there was PMQs. I just finished watching it. Did I just fumble on there was PMQs? Anyway, it was focusing predominantly on flood defences, spending, and of course Boris's action/inaction, and as predicted, whether or not Jeremy Corbyn will feature in the next shadow cabinet or not. Home Secretary now seems like a good job for him. Just don't let him do math, okay? That will be on this channel tonight at 9:30, a response to it, that is. 9:30 PM GMT. Oh, and the paper pervert says some usual Scottish bump, but it's nothing worth talking about until then. Today I want to talk about a couple things. Firstly, there are some rumblings, courtesy of the IFS, that believe, because of the fiscal target he inherited from his predecessor, to bring the spending into balance by 2022, the Institute for Fiscal Studies believes he couldn't do it, Rishi Sunak that is, unless he raises taxes in his very first budget. Oof, that will go down like a lump of lead. The one thing you don't want to be seen to be doing in your very first budget is raising taxes. But there are some who don't believe he will have to. One has to then try and make a decision whether they want to believe the Conservatives, who may well want to stay within their manifesto pledges, or the IFS, who aren't supposed to be biased but do have a bias of sorts. The manifesto did say the government would not put up tax, national insurance or VAT, and at present it is understood that the Chancellor is facing some pressure from the Prime Minister, and of course the real Prime Minister Dominic Cummings, to loosen the spending constraints, because they want to invest more. With the recent flood, certain funds have become available and they want to throw more money at it, understandably so, something we'll address in PMQs. The IFS has said that even on the current policy, borrowing next year would be £63 billion, which is £23 billion more than the most recent official forecast, which would put Sajid Javid's fiscal target in doubt. Taking into account the government's commitment to increasing investment spending, and even by getting the current budget into balance, it would not be enough to bring down the underlying debt over the course of the Parliament, something which we have been trying to do for a long time. It was, of course, much higher, but yes, loosening or abandoning this fiscal rule would put debt on a rising path. That is a statement directly from an IFS analysis. So, what are the tax increase proposals? Because debt in the long term is not really sustainable to keep getting more debt, let's face it. The IFS has suggested alternative ways to raise revenue, which would include increasing or lifting the freeze on fuel duty to give the government £4 billion more in revenue throughout Parliament, abolishing entrepreneurs' relief in capital gains tax and increasing council tax for those living in more expensive properties, which could form part of a desirable package of reforms. However, as we all know, Boris has already had to abolish any kind of mention of mansion taxing because his grassroots supporters, most of whom live in ivory towers, they weren't best impressed at the idea of being taxed more. Should we bring back the Doomsday Book now? These schemes are obviously politically difficult. 18 Conservative MPs who won seats for the first time since the war have written to the Chancellor and warned him about raising fuel duty because it would attack blue-collar communities. So if the Treasury really wants to flash or flip off the blue-collar voters that left Labour in the last election, this is one of the ways you're going to get them to go back to Labour, by betraying them. The IFS director, Paul Johnson, indicated that Rishi Sunak was hemmed in by a rising deficit and fiscal targets that have been set out in the Conservative manifesto, but he should recognise and respect that more spending must require more tax, which is rather interesting. I think personally there is going to be more spending. There has to be. There is no way you get elected and you don't immediately do anything you say you are going to do. NHS is on that list, social housing another, for the sake of raising additional funds to spend on what? But I do also think he's going to have to put up taxes if he wants to get the deficit down. I guess it comes down to whether or not Boris considers that a worthwhile venture or not. I've still never understood fully why we can't live within our means, but then I fully understand that to get the debt down, more sacrifices have to be made, and it's who has to make those sacrifices that the issues arise for. Let's not forget here, the Conservatives do have a lot of very wealthy donors, and I don't think they'd be overly happy giving up much of their money for tax when they normally offset or have been accused of offsetting or paying off the Conservatives to not raise tax. It's a tricky one. With this, I'm very much interested to know what you think Rishi Sunak is going to do when he delivers his budget, if and when he delivers his budget. PMQs is on tonight. If I don't see you there tonight, have a great day.